How's it going, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome to another episode of Cosplay Con Talk, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. Tonight, we are doing another segment of Get to Know That Cosplayer, and tonight's featured guest is Kaito Sakihara. How are you doing, Kaito?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I am doing rather well. So, as always, the first question I ask is, how long have you been cosplaying for?
I've been cosplaying for I want to say about 9 to 10 years. I started when I was about 13 years old, and things have changed a lot, and it's been a really cool adventure so far.
Wait, how long did you say you've been cosplaying for? 13 years?
About nine to
Oh,
10. I
nine,
really
nine
can't
to
put a finger
10.
on it.
9 to 10. What got you into cosplaying?
Well, so I didn't grow up really super into anime. I only got into anime at about like 12 years old or 13. Well, compared to some of my friends, that's like late bloomer. But I saw like these videos of conventions. You ever see those videos where like the cameraman they film all the different cosplayers, they put in like slow motion and put like music or something?
Yes, I have actually seen quite a lot of those on YouTube when I first,
Yeah,
when I always wanted to go to conventions.
they were super cool, and they had like videos of like Anime Expo and SakuraCon and stuff. And I saw that, I was like, they look really cool. What are they doing? And then my friend was like, oh, they're doing this thing called cosplay. I was like, is that like Halloween? And I was like, they're like, no, no, you dress up as like a pop culture thing, like a video game character, anime character. I was like, anime? What's that? And they're like, aren't you like half Japanese or something? I'm like, yeah, but I watch Cartoon Network and stuff. So they showed me like Vocaloid and Death Note and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is life changing, and it was.
Nice. And what was your very first convention that you went to?
So here's a fun fact. I'm actually not from the US. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I grew up over here and I visit the US every year, which probably contributes to my American accent. But the first convention I went to was in a little kingdom called Bahrain, right next to Saudi. And they had like this anime open mic night thing where you're gonna go and hang out, make friends. It was a precursor to their main convention that they held every year. And it was really small. And I went there and I cosplayed as Altair from Assassin's Creed when I was 13.
Very nice. That's actually a pretty good character and a good game as well.
Thank you.
What made you want to cosplay as Altair?
So I was and still am a really huge like a geek and stuff, and I love it. And I was just really into the Assassin's Creed franchise at the time, and I just thought it was really cool that in Assassin's Creed One, it took place in like this Middle Eastern setting that reminded me like Prince of Persia, and I could kind of relate to that because I grew up in the Middle East. So I thought the aesthetic was really cool. The story was cool, and I wanted to express, how much I love Assassin's Creed. So I said, "Hey, let me cosplay Altair." So I did.
Very nice, very nice. Now, did you buy the costume or did you make it yourself?
I made it myself, and looking back, there were a couple of things I probably could have done better. I didn't have a sewing machine, so I used this thing called hemming tape, which you use to hem the bottom of your pants. But I used that for all the seams, and there was not a single thread and needle in the whole thing. But it came together pretty decently.
And how long did it take you to make that cosplay?
Uh, After watching so many YouTube tutorials about how to do anything with fabric, it took me about a month.
That's uh, that's a fairly decent time.
I like to think so.
And
Yeah.
what was the name of the convention that you went to for the first time?
I think it was called Animania. Yeah, Animania.
Nice. And, for anyone who's looking to go into their first convention over in Saudi Arabia, would you recommend that con for first time con goers?
Well, so Animania, like I said, it took place in Bahrain, which is like an hour drive away from where I live in Saudi Arabia. Uh, it's a little bit questionable whether I'd recommend it as a first convention because I feel like there's such a huge difference between like cons outside of like North America and inside North America. And the culture, the people, and how everything's done, it's so different. My personal recommendation would be go to an anime convention in the States or in Canada and it'll be an amazing time. That's what I recommend.
Nice. And have you gone to any conventions here in the States?
I have. So I graduated high school in Saudi Arabia like 2015, and then I flew right over to Washington State. And then I was like, oh, they have their conventions here too, of course. And so I checked out SakuraCon and then KumoriCon down in Portland. And they were like a whole different world. It was just so fun. And I've been going to SakuraCon and KumoriCon about every year from 2015 to about 2019 ish, 4.5 years. And they were amazing.
Nice. And I imagine between going to a convention, out of this country to a convention here, I imagine there was like a huge difference for you.
Yeah, the especially with the cosplay
Hmm.
culture because excuse me,
You're fine.
I cosplay at every convention I go to. So seeing how different people have been cosplaying, how they perceive cosplay, what it means to them, and just the sheer size of the convention, it's just astronomical.
Nice. Very nice. Any kind of recommendations you would like to give for those who are thinking about cosplaying outside of the country and going somewhere else to cosplay?
If you're going to travel to another country to cosplay, the biggest thing that you need to worry about probably is props. Because if your cosplay has any kind of big props, you're going to have to get that through customs and in your suitcase or somehow get it over there. And that reminds me of one time I cosplayed as Levi Ackerman from Attack on Titan in Hawaii. I was visiting Hawaii with my family because my grandmother lives there, and I knew some cosplayers who were there. So we wanted to do a photo shoot, and the biggest prop in Attack on Titan is those 3DM gear things that they fly around with. And I was like, how do I get that from from Saudi Arabia to Hawaii in a at least relatively convenient way? So what I ended up doing is I made a new pair, but I didn't put it together. I just kind of put it in like a shipping container wrapped in like the cling film, and brought it with me as a check-in bag, hoping that it wouldn't get dented up, and it didn't. And then I hot glued it all together and assembled it at my destination. So if you have a big prop, I definitely recommend, if you can, assembling it at your destination to get it through travel quicker.
Nice. And what did you use to make the props for your Levi Ackerman cosplay?
The swords, the sword blade themselves, I use like a really lightweight wood, which was easy to cut and carve. But for the main body of it was what do they call, like those poster boards, the white poster board things
Um,
that you use for like arts and crafts. I think foam core. Yeah, foam core is what they call it. Foam core poster boards. You can get them at like Walmart for cheap.
nice. And
Yeah, that's what I use for the main body, and they're really good to make stuff out of. They're easy to cut and hot glue, and they're pretty structural. Yeah.
nice. How long did it take you to make those props?
So, depending on the prop, it takes a different amount of time. For the Attack on Titan one in particular, it would take me about 3 days to do one set of 3D maneuver gear. And I think the only reason I do it that fast is because I probably made about 4 or 5 pairs, in my life. Each one getting a little bit better, a little bit faster than the last one. But yeah, it took about three days. My favorite kind of prop to use in any cosplay is a Japanese sword because I do martial arts and I think it's really cool. I love it. I love carrying around a sword, acting like a samurai or whatever. So I love putting a lot of detail into Japanese swords and their shape, the proportion, the handle wrapping. So usually for Japanese swords, I would buy something like a decorative one or like a martial arts prop or practice sword, and I'd modify it because it already has the right shape, the right size. So that one's usually faster, but a little bit more expensive.
Now, have you ever gotten? I know with most cons, have you ever got to get have er, had to get stopped by con security because they thought your prop looked like too realistic?
It would have definitely been the swords, yeah. I think at Kumori Con, because I cosplayed once as Jin from Samurai Champloo, and I had like the whole samurai sword set in my belt, and they needed to piece bond it, is what they called. And because the blade was made of metal, but it wasn't sharp, and it was made of aluminum, so it's a really lightweight. It almost feels like a toy because the metal is so light, and the tip of it was rounded. So once they realized that, they're like, "Oh, this is definitely just a prop." So if you do have like a sword or something, and it's not absolutely necessary to have the tip be sharp, I definitely recommend rounding it just a little bit at least to make the con security a little bit more relaxed about you having it on premises.
Got you. So, and you, as you said, you've made your own cosplays. What cosplay would you say took you the longest, but it was like well worth it in the end?
Cosplay that took me the longest. I'm just gonna pop into my Instagram real quick because it's been a while since I, just put on a cosplay. So just to remind myself, what did I cosplay again? The cosplay that took me the longest was Yuri Katsuki from Yuri on Ice. It was the one with the jacket and the sparkly, crystals and stuff. That definitely took me the longest.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at that right now. He's the one with the black hair and glasses, correct?
Yes, that is the one.
Okay, nice. And so, what did you like? What kind of material did you use for that character?
For Yuri and his free skate outfit, yeah, with the jacket, it wasn't that hard to put together, but what took the longest time and the most effort was actually the individual Swarovski crystals that I had to one by one attach to the jacket around the chest area, the shoulder, and the half of the back. And I had to attach about maybe 300 crystals individually, one by one, with an adhesive. And that took, at least a couple days by itself.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing was the Swarovski crystals. And when it comes to stuff with crystals, I do recommend Swarovski if you can because they just have a different level of shine and sparkle to them.
Would you recommend any websites where you can get those kind of crystals?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to find them, believe it or not, even if they're like a big brand. I don't know Swarovski website themselves sell it, but most online craft stores sell it, and usually at different prices. But yeah, online craft stores just in general.
That is
I don't have a particular one.
that's good to know. Would you say you have a least favorite cosplay that you've made that you would just never want to do again?
A least favorite cosplay that I made. Uh, so I think I do. That would probably have to be, and I love the cosplay, but I don't want to do it again. It's Spider-Man from, which movie was it? With Tom Holland, and he had this pajama-looking one from. He went to the
Oh,
prom thing. His DIY
his
version.
starter suit. Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I wouldn't do that one again is because it was so warm. And it was so hard to see and breathe in that thick fabric mask, and I would just constantly have to take off the mask because it's not designed to be breathable, that fabric. But it was just suffocating me, and it was a little bit warm during the day, and it wasn't super comfy. So I found myself changing out of it as the day like came to an end pretty early.
And is there any advice you would give to those who are starting out to cosplay or those who are getting into cosplay and they want to start making their own cosplays by hand, by themselves?
Absolutely. My biggest tip would be um, measure twice, cut once. Because even after so many years of making my own cosplay, sometimes I think like, oh yeah, no, I got this sleeve. That's so easy. And then I, draw out a really quick one and then cut it out and then go to sew it. And the shape might be wrong, or the armhole is too small and it would be too restrictive, or just so many different factors. Definitely rely on patterns if you're making something that isn't like super insane, that doesn't exist. If you're making like a kind of kimono, for example, you could probably find a kimono pattern online and use some reference photos to get a really good idea. Definitely like research the garment. And another thing is if you're the kind of cosplayer who's really into makeup and wigs, then definitely practice before the con instead of doing the makeup for the first or second time on the con day, because that can be really stressful when you don't get that eyeliner right.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah,
actually my
practice.
next question was about makeup and everything. Do you do your own
Hmm.
makeup or do you have someone do it for you? Because I've noticed one of your cosplays, your Tanjiro cosplay
Yeah.
with the scar burn whatever.
Hmm.
Did you do that by yourself or did you have someone do that for you?
I do all of the makeup for my cosplays, and the Tanjiro one is, including that. This scar thing, I feel like I could have done a little bit of a better job. The color wasn't popping as hard as I wanted it to be, but I was pretty happy with it. But yes, I do my own makeup for my cosplays.
Very nice. And I've also
Yeah.
seen that you've cosplayed as CL Phantom Hive. Mind sharing a little bit about what made you wanted to do that character?
Yes, there's like a little bit of a story to that one. So, early on into my quote unquote anime career, being super into anime, one of the anime that I started watching at like 13, 14 years old was Black Butler, which I love so much. And I'm still reading that manga, trying to stay up to date. I just love the character, love the, complexity of CL and just the story in general. It's just really cool for me. But growing up, there were times where I was either not confident in my cosplay, not confident in my makeup, not confident in general. You know how teenage life can be sometimes.
Right.
And just so many things that were like a barrier for me. But eventually, you kind of like get that self confidence. Like, yeah, I can do it. It's going to be great. I know it's going to be great, hopefully. So I went and did it one day at a Comic Con in Dubai. And it came together really well. I was so proud of it. I think I have a photo of it somewhere deep within the lyrics of my Instagram. But it was really great. I was about 16 at the time, and that was it. And I didn't do CL again. So then I graduated high school, went to college, and I still love the manga, love the show. They released those Book of Circus arcs and stuff, which I really love. I was like, hey, I kind of want to do CL again, but I was like, CL is like 13 at the most, and you're in college now. You're older, you're taller than you were in high school. Can you really pull them off? And then my American cosplay friends, who, in my opinion, are, some of the nicest cosplay community in, certain aspects, they're so positive and they're like, yeah, cosplay whatever character you want. Don't worry about like, oh, your height, your weight, or your skin color, or anything like that. If you love the character, go for it, express your love for the character through your art. So I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I got that confidence again. So I cosplayed CL again, and I like to think that it turned out really well. I think it looks cool, and I'm very proud of it. So it's thanks to the positive encouragement around me from my friends and just the cosplay community in the US in general, the really positive vibe, that I did CL again, and I don't regret it. It was really fun.
Very nice. And on the topic of your CL, I know you were wearing. I noticed that you were wearing the eye patch. Was that hard to see just through one eye when you're wearing that eye patch for your CL cosplay?
I want to say 2018 to 2019 is the curse of the eye patch for me, because in addition to CL, I also cosplayed Majima from the Yakuza games, and he also has an eye patch. So, probably about two or three cons in a row, I was only looking through one eye. It was a little bit difficult, um, because you just have no depth perception at all. So you might like drop your phone or drop your soda or whatever if you're picking it up from somewhere, and you do get used to it after a while. And one advantage to having an eye patch in your cosplay is that you only need to worry about your makeup in one eye. Eyeliner and stuff is a pain in the butt, so it's nice to only do half the work. But the disadvantage to that is if you cosplay too many characters with an eye patch, which is what I did, you start losing your makeup skill in the other eye. So when you come around to doing a character like, say, Tanjiro, and you're like, okay, time to do the other eye. And you're just like, oh, how do you do this again? So that was my little dilemma, which I got over pretty quick. But that's why I say practice before the con, so you don't get stuck on the con morning in your hotel room while everyone's having breakfast.
So,
Yeah.
so you've been cosplaying internationally for quite some time. What is that like, that experience of cosplay, not just in your hometown, but also around the
Mm.
world?
It is definitely eye-opening, and you learn a lot of not just about cons and cosplay culture, but just people in general and societies. It's a it's an interesting way to make friends, and it's really fun. But there are also a little bit of struggles with it too. Like for example, in the Middle East, cosplay is a relatively new thing. I remember it had just started. Like people just started knowing what cosplay is at around 2010. And it was new, it was big. We had no cosplay community. It was just being created at the time. And the biggest ones were in Bahrain, the little kingdom next to Saudi. After a while, Saudi Arabia itself started having a couple of conventions. And I think I actually went to the first anime convention in Saudi Arabia ever and cosplayed as Eren, which was fun. But the struggle is if you're coming from a place like the Gulf Arab countries, like Middle East, and cosplay is still new and fresh to them, it doesn't quite have the social culture that more established convention cities or convention countries have, like in the US, for example. We had cosplayers who started in 2010, and they were pretty good in their art and stuff. If you were like into judging cosplay accuracy or whatever. But then the new cosplayers who came in 2012, they see the people from 2010 as absolute veteran celebrities and stuff sometimes. And what I realized throughout high school was there was quickly becoming this kind of superiority. I'm going to be super popular and famous kind of culture in the cosplay community. And that kind of made it feel less fun to me. It was a popularity contest after a while.
Yeah, I've noticed that that's kind of here happens in the States. Certain, like the big name brand conventions and the you
Hmm.
know, it's becoming a more of a thing lately, especially with gatekeeping in the cosplay community. And again, I do appreciate the fact that you say that cosplay is for everyone. That's like the biggest thing
Absolutely.
people need to know nowadays, that cosplay is for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so by the end of my high school years, that's what I was starting to feel from the conventions back home here, because I'm currently not in the States. And I don't know, I just didn't feel that fun anymore. It just felt like it was like the fashion show was a cosplay contest, and the mingling was the popularity contest. And it just didn't feel that fun. Of course, this isn't the case with every convention here. I'm sure that, things are different or changing, or there's some nice, you know, communities and stuff. But once I went to the US, it felt so different. What I liked about it most of all is that when you go to the convention, the city where the convention is, on Friday night, you're hanging out with your friends, you're all tired, you're messing around, taking fun TikToks or videos or Vines back then. And you see your friend down the hall with their group of friends, and you go say hi, and you meet other people. It's just super social. It's just this one weekend where you can forget about your job, forget about school, and just live in the moment, meet friends, and do wholesome, nerdy, geeky stuff together. And nobody's going to judge you for it because you're all wearing costumes, anyways. So just have at it. And I felt back home, some of the people that I knew, they were trying too hard to be cool, trying too hard to, look a certain way or act a certain way, that you didn't get that wholesome vibe that I love so much in the US, from my experience at least.
All
Yeah.
right. So we got about 5 minutes to go here, so I probably ask you like three more questions.
Go for it.
So due to COVID, a lot of cons and everything were canceled, and a lot of people had their cosplays. They weren't able to
Hmm.
do. Once COVID is over, do you have any future cosplays that you plan on showing
Ooh,
once cons become a thing again?
yes. I have been playing this game called Genshin Impact lately. You might have heard of it.
I believe so. I have, yes.
Yeah, it's super big and super popular right now. It's like free to play, honestly, and it's really fun. And there's one character called Venti, who is really adorable but really sassy at the same time. He's like a bard, and it's the same kawaii vibes as like CL, except CL is like really intense. This one's really lighthearted. Um, I'm definitely cosplaying as Venti, and my friends are doing a group in the States. I don't know when I'm going to join them. I graduated college and I moved here, but I do plan on traveling soon. Once the opportunity arises, and go attend SakuraCon or KomoriCon again,
Right.
and see all my wonderful friends, and connect with the cosplay community in the U.S. because I miss it so much.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of people are looking forward to going back to uh cons. I've actually recently seen on TikTok of
Hmm.
people doing going to a con in Florida. I mean, they were wearing masks and everything, but it's like I don't know if that's a good thing to do right now because a whole lot of us who over here in Oregon
Hmm.
can't really do cons because the conventions are doing the smart thing by waiting.
Definitely a questionable decision to hold a convention around this time.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah.
We got about 3 minutes. I got about 3 minutes to go. Mind sharing. So with your cosplays, have you ever had any
Hmm.
mishaps? Like something's fallen off, something just didn't go well. You had a malfunction of any sorts.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely did. The first time I cosplayed from Attack on Titan, it wasn't Levi, it was Aaron actually, and I was going to a convention in Bahrain, which is about an hour drive away. And I got everything ready, got the wigs ready, got the costume ready. I put the 3D maneuver gear in the trunk, and we drove and drove and drove, and we got to the convention. I said, okay, I'm like halfway dressed, time to take the 3D gear out of the trunk. And I opened the trunk, and it was completely fallen apart. It was just dead.
No.
Everything was out of shape. I was like, what happened? What I realized was the Middle East is so hot, especially when you're driving a black Dodge Charger, and the trunk is just turned into an oven, and it literally melted the hot glue that was holding the thing together. And I was not very prepared back then. I didn't bring a hot glue gun with me, which I also recommend every cosplayer have like an emergency cosplay kit with some hot glue, some sewing needles, some super glue, definitely stuff like that whenever you go to a convention.
Gotcha.
So I was freaking out, and I just salvaged the whole thing. I just picked it up and put it in like a back room area at the convention. I was like, what am I going to do? One of my friends had a hot glue gun, so we repaired it in about 40 minutes, and we were good to go. But
Nice.
that was probably the biggest shock and mishap in my cosplay
It sounds
time.
like it.
It was scary.
So we got roughly a minute to go.
Hmm.
Any quick advice or tips for anyone, when it comes to going to a convention or anything related to the cosplay community that you want to say real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I touched upon previously, when we go to these conventions, when we put on these costumes and we go and meet friends, make friends, and socialize, it's really wholesome and it's a wonderful thing to do to really express your love for what you're passionate about. Try not to lose sight of that. Try not to lose that passion, that love, that wholesomeness, that, I don't know, youthfulness when it comes to these things because we do it because we love it. And these conventions are just the perfect place to make memories. And after a while, you're gonna look back at those fun, wholesome memories, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, that was an amazing time. Let's make some more wonderful memories like that." So just remember to have fun. It can be stressful. Things can go wrong. Your hot glue could melt in your car, but remember to take a breath and enjoy that weekend because once it's over, you might be hit with those post-con blues and you're going to
Yeah.
be like, oh, I wish I was back in that convention hall with the ugly carpets.
uh,
So, enjoy it. That's my biggest recommend. Have fun.
Thank you again, Kaito. Thank you again for
Of
coming on
course.
to tonight's show. Once
Thank you so
again,
much for having me.
don't mention it. Once again, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching.